Hello and welcome to a new episode of Film Seizure. I am Jeff Arbuckle. Joined with me, as always, Jason Oliver. Jason, how's it going?
Hey, I got here before Chuck. I got here before Chuck. But Chuck's here too. Hey, say hi, Chuck.
Hi, Chuck.
Hey, there it is. I'm currently doing a little bit of a twist with my live-in bikini-clad lady friend.
Oh my God.
You sound too happy to be doing that twist.
Well, no, he was happy. She was stone-faced. We'll get there. We will get there.
Mary Chase. She's my new favorite lady.
So, anyway, we are talking about, you clicked on the episode, so you know we're talking about 1963's It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. This comes from Stanley Kramer, one of the biggest guys from pretty much the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Yep. We've already talked about one of the movies he produced with High Noon.
Yep, we did.
And this was pretty much coming right off of Judgment at Nuremberg, which was a pretty important movie because for a lot of the people that were making that movie, he actually showed them before most of the public had ever seen a lot of stuff that was filmed at the concentration camps and the actual evils that went on there. Yeah. A lot of that was not really known to the public until later.
He's very much known as more of a dramatic guy. This movie was a huge departure for him, to varying success. We'll talk about that as we get into the episode. But yes, Kramer, he was one of the old guard when the new Hollywood kind of was ushering in.
Yeah.
Right? He was kind of one of those guys that the new Hollywood directors were sort of rebelling against in a lot of ways, right? But man, he made some excellent movies. Just really massively important movies, even into the early 70s.
Yeah, because because I think his last movie he directed was in 79. So well into well into the late 70s before. Before ultimately he didn't pass away until 2001.
Wow. He really, he was 90 then, or close to.
87, I think they said. So yeah.
Probably, I would say probably his most important latest feature would have been Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Yeah, that was the last one that he had any, Oscar nominations or anything
also starring Spencer Tracy.
Which he was posthumously nominated for that.
Yeah, because he died in 1967. Tracy did.
Yeah.
Man, he was an old looking dude in Mad Mad World. I was like, man, Spencer Tracy. They probably had to roll him on the set. He was probably 80 years old. And I looked up, he was 63 or something. Yeah. I was like, holy shit, man.
He ran up 15 flights of stairs. Come on.
Alcoholism, man. Look
Smoking and alcoholism.
Smoking and alcohol. Oof. Man. Yeah.
But yeah, this is Kramer, interestingly enough, the year that he made, Judgment at Nuremberg, he was nominated for producing as Best Picture and for directing that movie, but he won neither of those. He actually never won an Oscar for Best Picture or Best Director, but that year, because of Judgment at Nuremberg, he won the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award.
Yeah.
So that's that's something,
that's big. Yeah.
But this is a movie.
Well, I think he can count himself with Hitchcock, because I don't think Hitchcock ever won.
No, he won
director, but he pretty sure he won the Thalberg Award. Yeah.
Well, he won some sort of special achievement award.
Yeah.
A couple of years before Hitchcock died, I think. Well, and it's like Kubrick never won an Oscar except for visual effects
Right.
for 2001.
Right.
The one thing that he has less to do with than anything else.
Oh yeah, that was mostly Trumbull probably,
Right.
but yeah.
Yeah. But no, this is a movie. So, it's a mad world is kind of an interesting creature, right? Because, in a way, it fits right in with those 60s movies where, because even there were a lot of movies in the 60s that were 2.5 or 3 hours long that were not dramas. Like there were musicals, there were, of course there were epics as well that were made that were long, but this kind of fits into almost something that would have almost played out like a musical from the 60s. Instead, it's just a straight comedy. But what I find most interesting is the sheer number of famous people in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's another cast quite like this.
It's kind of interesting because the prestige of this movie is starting to wane. Because if you aren't a film historian, if you're not somebody who is plugged into the films of the era, or honestly a lot of the cameos are like decades old in some ways, right? I mean, the Stooges are in there for just a second, and they had kind of waned in popularity by then.
Well, I mean, they had gone so far as that you have Curly Joe in there.
Yeah.
So it's they've already lost another Curly and Shemp at this point.
Yeah.
So they were, Mo Howard and Larry Fine were still, they were still around, not much longer.
Yeah.
But they were still around, but they had not been in a short since probably sometime, or, something since the 50s, probably.
So to a point, though, what I'm trying to say is that to a point, this movie almost has to stand on its own as a comedy without the cameos, right? We're at this point in history where if you put this in front of a kid, I don't know, probably any boy or girl of the age of 12, and how will they react to it, right? I don't know.
Right.
Chuck, you said that one of your kids watched it with you. Did they find it funny? Do they find it tedious? Do they like it?
Their one word review of the movie was, it was funny.
Okay.
So that's the descriptor I got. And
did
honestly,
they laugh out loud a lot?
A couple points, but they were also on their phone for half the movie.
Well, that's
this,
typical.
Yeah, this is the non film watching child, to the one we have to drag into the room if we want to watch a movie together. So the fact that they stuck around for the whole thing was kind of wild.
Yeah.
But I'll even say your whole, and I have a poor memory, but even I didn't recognize half the people in this movie, and probably missed some of the cameos.
There's a lot of people in here that I don't know. Yep.
There's one that there was one that I had to kind of try to figure out what it was. There was one that gets kind of really has a lingering shot and kind of zeroed in on when a guy comes up, when this is after,
I know what you're talking about.
He runs over someone's hat.
No. This is after
the guy that pulls up in the car.
The guy pulls up in the car and he asks if they need his help, and Ethel Merman tells him to get lost.
Oh yeah,
and that just looked awkward. Which in this scene, because I didn't know who it was, I'm like, that was weird. So I assume it was.
It's Jack Benny.
That is Jack Benny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
shit like that doesn't really hold up, right?
Right. Now, granted, as far as that's, okay, yes, here's the thing. The Three Stooges, I think, are going to last longer than this movie will, because people do like it when people fall down, go boom. I personally do. I like the Three Stooges.
Well, it also has a brand that
absolutely
and a style of comedy that is punchy, almost. Literally and figuratively, that is going to endure. Yeah.
Right. And it's not. And the funny thing is that the people who as goofball and as violent as the Stooges are with each other, the people who are really being harmed by them are all the upper crust people. So it is still punching up, even if Moe is punching Larry in the face. There's always somebody
who's punching sideways. But yeah.
Right, but that's just that's exactly right. But eventually, a rich guy in a tux is going to get a pie in the face in one of those. It's like that's just so it's like that kind of helps lend to it. So stuff like that will be one thing, but like in time, you're right. I mean, like the Jack Benny one, I had to actually look and it's like, was that Jack Benny?
Mm.
And I had to get confirmation on that. The other ones like, I mean
like one of the major players, Phil Silvers, I had to look up, and I was like, I know I recognize that guy.
Oh yeah,
but he's not like a huge name or face or star, really. Like he was then.
He was then, yeah. I mean, he was huge then. Yeah. I mean, like, but see, here's the thing, though.
He's the king of chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
Here's the thing about anybody who is like in the principal cast, like the people who are actually on the chase for the money. It doesn't really matter how famous or how well you know them because they're a main character.
Well, they're also like all really fucking famous.
Well, they are, but like the point is that's not going to matter as much to anybody who's like you said, it's like, I know I recognize that guy, to which I would have told you right away. It's like, oh, that's Phil Silvers. It's like I knew who that was, but at the same time, it's like,
I mean, I knew his face, but it's like
right. But I mean, but like the thing is like that is not as nearly as important because he's a principal cast member. But you're right. Some of those cameos are going to get this more and more distant to the point where, in some ways, they are going to detract. Like the whole idea of Jerry Lewis running over the hat. I have no idea why he did it. But I can just chalk it up to Jerry Lewis being a goofball. I don't
goofy. know. I will say though that some of the cameos really work, like regardless of who you know, if you know who they are or not. Like
Don Knotts was perfect.
Don Knotts was fine. Yeah, I honestly wish they'd give him more to do. To be quite honest,
Jim Backus
and Don Knotts will always be recognizable. I feel like. I mean, anybody who's got like basic antenna is going to know who the fuck Don Knotts is.
Well, he has a lot of properties that will endure.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
but the very first one, Jimmy Durante, right?
Oh, that was great.
Like I don't care if you know who Jimmy Durante is or not. You're like, this old man is interesting and funny as fuck. Yeah, and then he literally kicks the bucket
immediately. Yeah, right. And he's, and he is the driving force of the whole thing. And then who shows up?
The Smiler. Everyone loved a Smiler.
Well, and the guy who one of the guys who shows up is was Norman Fell. Who, whether or not you know who
I know Norman
the Ropers are, you're going to know him by his face somehow.
Totally,
if you have
He's like, fucking Three's Company,
right.
Totally.
Which is funny because also Don Knotts was on Three's Company. But like Jim Backus, if you know Gilligan's Island, you're going to know him instantly. And he killed me in this movie. Like that whole scene with him in the fucking plane was
he got knocked out way too soon for that scene, though.
Man, well, fair,
but should have woken back up too. Like there could have been a whole thing like that was absolutely misplayed and overdone. The whole plane sequence. Sorry, it was.
I mean,
there were a few like that was overdone and overplayed. The scene in the basement of the hardware store, overdone and overplayed.
I just wanted that thing to fucking blow up. At one point.
It's like I can only endure him saying it's in the other room. It won't be that loud so many times. It's like, come on, this is where Stanley Kramer, honestly, is like kind of riding on hubris a little bit and also doesn't really know his comedy chops. Because jokes can be punchier than this. There are things that kind of are just taken too far to tedium. And I'm not alone in this because it was reviewed this way. There were many people who liked this movie when it came out, who also said that a lot of the comedy set pieces just went on into tedium.
Well, and some of that, I mean, to a certain extent, I agree with that. And another extent, I also think of this movie as, I mean, it is a product of its time too. Like the entirety of Ethel Merman is a product of her time. And I mean, it's the overbearing mother or a mother-in-law type character.
Yeah, but I mean, we've all seen that in shows from the 60s, whatever. But Ethel Merman was doing it in a sitcom show. You get maybe 5 minutes of that.
Yeah.
In this movie, you get like 20, to the point where the banana peel isn't enough. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just it. A lot of it is like that.
She is the one who actually gets the most violence towards her because she's constantly falling out of cars. She's falling into cars. She's
getting tipped over.
She's getting tipped over. She is getting it throughout the movie. It's just that the entirety of the cast doesn't react to, because they're never all around to see her get something until the very end.
Right.
Man, when Buddy Hackett though says to her, this is early, and he says to her, "Except you, lady, who can just drop dead." I was like, I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. But nope, she doesn't drop dead.
Now I will say, you know, to a certain extent, like I said, to the certain extent, sometimes, I mean, there is a style of comedy here that isn't quite as punchy. It is more like just characters being kind of muggy to the camera, or doing what, I mean, it's like, just keep doing what you're doing or whatever. And because I had recently, I mean, this was on Svengoolie a couple of weeks ago, I just watched The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, which is Don Knotts. Yeah, and there are parts of that movie, and there are recurring jokes in that are really, really famous of its time, but don't quite play as well anymore because of the timing and because of the length. There's one recurring joke that I don't think is funny at all, but apparently it was a super famous recurring joke. And it's like, I can't believe that is what people thought was funny, but whatever. The movie itself, I like fine. You know, it's like, I'm never going to turn down, you know, a Don Knotts movie like that. But, you know, I admit there were several times I was laughing out loud at stuff.
Oh yeah. I did too. Like the entire sequence at the service station.
Oh my God! When
I couldn't keep it together.
When
Jonathan Winters he's a one-man wrecking crew, and he's just punching through walls. I mean, I cannot not laugh at that. That is so funny.
The whole thing falls apart.
Yeah. He takes the whole damn building down.
Yes. Well, and what's funny is there's another character in that scene that is going to be forgotten by most. You know, really, he's kind of a part of the past now, and that's Arnold Stang. Now, if anybody,
either Roy or Iris, or
Arnold Stang was Ray.
Ray
now, Arnold Stang, like most people are only going to know Arnold Stang if they've seen Hercules in New York. Because
that hadn't come out yet.
Well, no. I'm talking about people our age, like beyond. I mean, like Arnold Stang is not a thing that anybody younger than 50 should really know too well. Except if you've seen a really, really bad Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he plays a squirrely little, you know, he looks like a little turtle guy. Like, yeah, it's just, but he's somebody I know because I've seen that movie, and he's a goofy character actor like that. But
yeah, I want to comment on this scene because it's freaking wonderful. Jonathan Winters is great, and it goes on forever too. But it's funny. It's funny the whole time. But every joke and every scene in this movie is treated exactly like this one, and it doesn't have like the punch for punch, moment for moment kind of hilarity, or even though it was the same thing, like all of the other jokes, really, for 5 minutes.
It's a long moment. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
This is when my kid was laughing hysterically through them coming through the wall and like prognosticating like, oh, 3, 2, 1, bang, and then someone comes flying through the garage. It's just really well done.
Yep. Yeah,
and the whole fucking building comes down. It's hilarious.
The whole damn thing. Jonathan Winters is he's just an absolute force in this scene. And
he really is through the whole movie.
He is. He has the most range. He's great. Jonathan Winters, my Academy Awards in this movie go to him, Milton Berle, and
Peter Falk.
Tracy.
Damn it.
Peter Falk, he was fine. He's playing
he's so Peter Falk.
I would argue that the one guy really not playing himself is Jonathan Winters. He's playing like a rampaging rhino. He's not really. I mean, everybody else is kind of playing themselves.
Like when they pass him on the road, when he's riding the little kid's bike, the look on his face of dejection is so good. It's so good. And his boiling rage after that, like that's the turning point for his character. And he just gets angrier and angrier because Phil
Silver screws him over. I mean, he gets the most screwed over of everybody because then Phil Silvers comes along and he's like, buddy, you got to hear this story. And he's like, all right, lay it on me.
I know it.
But like, but he's like, there's the whole opening. Let's talk about the whole opening scene, because that's where, like these various characters, you've got Winters driving a moving truck with a bunch of furniture in it. You've got
he's got to get to Yuma, and
he's got to get to Yuma.
12 hours.
You've got Mickey Rooney and Buddy Hackett on their way to Vegas. You've got Milton Berle, his wife Emmeline, who's Dorothy Provine, who was kind of a TV star at the time. And then her mother, who's Ethel Merman. They are on their way someplace. He's wearing a yachting hat.
Dorothy Provine and
Milton
Berle are on their second honeymoon.
Right. They're
for whatever reason they have the mother-in-law in tow.
Right.
And that's a December-May relationship, isn't it?
I don't know. Milton Berle is famously known for having a gigantic hog, so he could get whatever he wanted, I think. Also, though, he did
cigar
kind of fleshy one. Yeah.
He was born in 1908, and Dorothy Provine was born in 35. So
she was almost 30. I mean, that's not uncommon at that time. Yeah, at that time, that's not that uncommon. But of course, Milton Berle is famously known for often cross-dressing in his acts.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's how confident he was in his giant hog. But anyway, but they're on their thing, and I think all of that. I mean, the whole reason why Ethel Merman's with them is that Milton Berle.
Chuck, you left us. We spent the last 5 minutes talking about Milton Berle's huge
Schwanstocker.
Oh God.
Anyway, but I mean, he's meek, and he's, it's like I think the whole point of Ethel Merman being there is the fact that it informs his character on being unable to say no. And that's all kind of part of his character, is that he's a loser. But then
I like him. I like his performance. I like the way he plays.
Oh, he's great.
People. He plays. He kind of gives everyone a little bit of what they want.
Oh, yeah, especially
but he's always still out for it for himself, right? Yeah, that's what I like about him.
Yeah. But then you got Sid Caesar and his wife, who's Edie Adams. Yeah. The Crumps. And so they are, I don't know what they were doing on their trip. I'm not sure where they were. I don't remember exactly where they were headed.
Who are we talking about?
We're setting up the characters in the first
No, which
scene.
two? Which ones?
Sid Caesar and Edie, Monica and Melville.
I'm looking. You can continue.
But anyway, so they all get passed by this crazy driver who flies off of an embankment.
Second honeymoon.
Were they on their second honeymoon, or was it the Finches who were on their second honeymoon?
Melvin Crump, a dentist, on a second honeymoon with his wife Monica.
Oh, okay. Well, we had that wrong then, because we were saying that that the Finches, Milton Berle and Dorothy Provine, were on their second honeymoon. So
it doesn't say what they're doing.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. Well, that corrects that then. Okay, cool. Anyway, so they, they get passed by this crazy driver who ends up just flying off the cliff. And so they all decide to stop because, at this point in time, well, we should see if that person needs help or
that
what's
guy
going
just
on.
Flew right off there. He just
flew
right off there.
Just flew right off there.
Like that one cracked me up.
He just flew right off there. Yeah.
That repetitiveness cracked me up.
Yeah. We got it.
Yeah.
We were wrong. Sid Caesar and his wife were on second honeymoon. Jason,
you were wrong.
You.
Oh yeah, they were the one.
The Finches were on their.
So what the fuck were the Finches doing?
It just says they were traveling.
Yeah,
I can't find anything more than that.
Yeah. Anyway, so they go down and they see
right
this guy. So they go down. They find Jimmy Durante on, like he had fallen out of the car, and it's like, wow, it's like I can't believe it. He's still alive, and he starts weaving this tale about how he paid for something, and that he spent the last however many years that he had paid for what he had done. And he starts talking about essentially what it leads to is there's $350,000 buried underneath a giant W. So he ends up kicking the bucket. And they all just kind of like, wow. All right, well, we don't even know if this guy was, being serious or whatever. Well, all of a sudden, these cops show up. And they want to know, it's like, did he say anything before he died? And they're like, there's something embarrassing. He thought I was his aunt or something like, Or no, I think it was actually, is it Sid Caesar who says, points to Buddy Hackett. It's like, yeah, he thought he was his...
Aunt Belle.
Aunt Belle. Yeah.
By the way, $350,000 then would be worth about $3.5 million.
Yeah.
Now, for context, so it would
be worth these people wanting to go for it.
Yes.
Yes. Right, but they all kind of say, yeah, we don't really. But they all get back in their cars after they're eventually released by Norman Fell, who's decided he's had enough understanding that they didn't know anything. And but we also find out that they are immediately followed. Like the information that Spencer Tracy has on these people is insane. It's like it is like NSA level information about these people.
Right. It's unreasonable to think they could have had the information that today I would believe it.
Right.
Sure.
I'd believe
70 years ago, no way.
You'd have to.
They had that info.
If you had the license plates and you knew who to call, and wherever the license plates were issued,
you'd have to have checkers like every 10 miles, right? On the road.
You could reasonably figure out, all right, who is the car licensed to, and then you reasonably figure out who's married to who,
right?
From marriage records and a clerk's office.
Knows,
so
he knows a lot more details about what they're up to.
He doesn't know that much. He knows their names. He knows their.
He knows that the Crumps ended up locked in the basement of a hardware store while trying to buy.
Well, because he's got people tailing him, though. That's why.
But they say they went to go buy a pick and a shovel and they got locked in the basement. Like, there's no reason why he would know the inside part of that.
That's kind of a different level of
he even knows
that's movie goofiness.
I mean, yeah, because he even knows that they're trying to use dynamite to get out.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
I mean, it's all part. It all services the comedy of it all, right? It's like
plays like Death Race 2000,
right? Exactly, and you're not going to have Spencer Tracy chasing them physically. It's like his job is to be the guy running everything, like almost like he's pulling strings.
Yes.
so he, so anyway, so they all get back to their cars and they start thinking about what Jimmy Durante said. And they all kind of get their own ideas about, like, you know, are those guys still behind us? Should we go after it? What should we do? And,
well, it's kind of a sequential conversation.
Exactly.
Like, the next person follows the line of the person before them as it jumps car to car.
But Jonathan Winters has nobody to follow up with, so he just parks on the side of the road. Yeah, he's talking to himself, and then he just parks on the side of the road.
Right.
And then he's like going to wait for them to move on, and then he's going to like get back out on the road. But of course they're all wise to him, so they're all waiting for him on the other side of the cliff that he parks behind. And so they all decide to go and try to work out a deal. And this is another one of those kind of long running series of lines that turn out to be really, really funny. Like, because they're trying to break apart, like, who should get what.
Well, it's an explanation of why socialism could never work, right? Like, in a capitalist society.
Yeah, right. In a pure socialism, right. It's like, because the thing is that
they couldn't determine equality. They couldn't determine what
it's actually a pretty good system, though. What he lays out, I forget
at the end.
Which the beginning.
Milton. No, it's Sid Caesar.
It's Sid Caesar. What he does with the shares is actually pretty good, because like and he even says you to Jonathan Winters, you as one person are getting $54,000,
which is more than any one other person would get.
Which is more than any other one person's getting. But yes, this is like there's an equity to this.
But the problem is
I still am making less than anyone else. It's like,
right, because they're looking at because he can't look beyond the fact that the first deal was to break it up by the cars.
Right.
And then it was break it up by each individual person, then break it up by cars, and then break it up by the first 5 who saw it. But then there were other people that were with the other 5 who were like, like the wives are like, well, wait, we don't get any, we don't get anything out of this.
But of course it's just a deconstruction of greed, and then
absolutely,
and then building alliances that you're gonna break and then rebuild again when it's convenient, right? I mean, that's the whole rest of the movie.
Right. Well, and then it sets the starter's gun too, which is it Andy Rooney or is it Buddy Hackett who ultimately, or Mickey?
I think it's Ding Bell.
Mickey Rooney.
Winters, who was kind of like the one who was creeping, and then Mickey Rooney kind of starts to run.
It's like, it's like, forget it all, everybody for themselves, let's go. And then it's madness at that point, because
is it madness?
No, it's madness.
Yes, there it is. Wait a minute, but let's break up the number of mads per share.
Oh no.
Well, Stanley Kramer wanted to add another mad, but decided it was redundant, and then regretted it. So
everyone says it.
What does that mean?
Everyone says
that's the funniest fucking thing in the movie. It's not in the movie.
It's a mad world. It's better with 5.
Yeah,
it's better with 5.
I agree. Stanley Kramer should regret it. It's better with 5.
There's a Hong Kong movie with only 3 though.
Oh,
it's a mad world.
Huh? Yeah, that's not
to be confused with it's a man's world.
Yeah, I know. Wikipedia keeps telling me, "Are you sure you don't want to go here?" Like, no, I don't want to go there. But anyway, so it's like. And then, this furthers again their own each individual personality, where it's like Jonathan Winters, the big guy with the big truck, is barreling down as best he can on each one of them, to the point where it eventually ends in violence because it wrecks into one of the other cars. But it's but like you have. Mickey Rooney is driving the sportier car, so he's able to get a little bit faster. The car that should be the fastest is Milton Berle's, but he's so meek he can't drive it fast enough. So, and then the guy, Sid Caesar, who's actually the one guy who is the most, I would say he's actually the one who can actually complete any idea best, because he's seemingly the smartest guy of the group. He's able to stick right with Ding Bell and Benji.
Yeah.
And he's the first one, I think, also to have the idea of we should just fly. We can get there faster. But they end up in a biplane that's like 50 years old that flies slower than cars drive.
Well, they get there way fucking faster than anyone.
Well, they do. Yeah.
Yeah. They get there way faster than anyone. They just lock themselves in a fucking basement.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, and they got there, I think, even before Ethel Merman thinks to call her son, who lives in the place or in the town where the W is.
Yeah, probably. I mean, somewhere around there, they were there around mid-movie, just before the intermission.
Yeah, because the intermission ends with, and it is kind of clever how they do go into the intermission, because everybody is kind of at their worst point at that point.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a good intermission point.
I like that they used the song from the movie, but talked about you going to get snacks and having a cigarette and talking about your favorite part of the movie. Like, that is actually funny.
That's
right.
Pretty funny. Yeah.
This is a movie that has, not only a, what's it called? Overture, but it also has one at the intermission, and it also has one at the end. It's like this movie is book like ended in 3 places with an overture.
How weird was it, not to go back too far, but unless it was my version, there was like 3 minutes of just the overture at the beginning with total blackness.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
That's common.
That's common. Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I saw that.
Star Trek The Motion Picture was the first movie I ever saw with an overture, but it isn't just a black screen. It's actually a star field that you're.
That's what I'm saying. Like the black screen was the weird part for me. And then they did the whole thing over again with the animation. Basically, it was like, why couldn't you just do one? But still.
It's the you got to get in your seat. The movie's about to start music.
Oh,
and Criterion is trying to keep that original, whatever. That original feel. And then
really
at the end, it's the get up and leave.
The opening credit sequence is phenomenal. Thank you, Saul Bass. You're a fucking genius.
I think we've done all of his movies at this point now.
I know we've done a lot of them. I love the in alphabetical order.
And then they mix it up.
Listen, and then it keeps mixing it up to like give everybody like top billing. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, we'll fix all your egos. It's really funny.
So basically, this is when Spencer Tracy discovers, which this is such a weird joke too, but I did laugh at it. The fact that his hat even falling out the window is a dumb thing to happen anyway. So it almost sets him up as being bumbling too.
Yeah, it happened again.
It happened again. Yeah, it's like the freaking hat flies out of the window. I mean, move the hat rack. It's like, it's a simple fix. Move the hat rack. But anyway, he shows up and he's like, we're finally gonna get it because Smiler Grogan has finally, we're finally going to get back the money that he stole. Why that would even have to be a thing is beyond me, but it's Spencer Tracy trying to set himself up to go out on top and to get a good pension, a better pension. Which that's also depressing to find out that his pension hasn't been touched in like 30 years as far as like how much he's getting paid into it. It's like, that sucks.
Right.
Life sucks. But anyway, so the Crumps get into a rickety biplane that's falling apart. I almost expected there to be a snake in there, like when Raiders of the Lost Ark, when he gets into seaplane, and Jacques got a snake in his co-pilot seat.
Oh, well, like one of your favorite movies is represented here with the snake, Robin Hood, Sir Hiss.
What?
Ooh.
The snake. Isn't there a snake in Robin Hood?
No. Wait. No?
Well, Terry Thomas is in the Robin Hood, the Disney Robin Hood.
Hey.
I haven't seen that in decades. That's not my favorite.
I thought you liked that one. Oh, I'm thinking you like Fox and Hound.
Fox and the Hound, man. Yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah, you're not a big fan of. Yeah, you don't. All right, never mind.
I was mixing
my '70s Disney movies that Jeff likes up.
Well, no, I'm fine with Fox with Robin Hood, but yeah, really, it's like the really old ones, and then like Fox and the Hound, and like at that point, I was like, I've seen enough. I'm good. I'm good. Disney, I've retired from Disney animation.
Well, so have they. So
fair enough. That's true, because I would rather watch a Pixar movie.
Just wait 30 years for the reanimated version of their live action.
Yes. That's coming for sure. With all actors who have been dead, they'll do CG recreations of dead actors in remakes of their old properties. Yeah.
Oh God, with the AI voice work, it'll be interesting.
Bruce Lee will play,
Snow White
Boots or something. That's how it works, but.
All right, so where are we at here? So the Crumps get in the biplane, they take off. Ding Bell and Benji have to try to find a guy to fly them, and they end up at like a weird like country club of airplane pilots, and that none of them are going to fly them anywhere except for maybe one guy. One guy might fly him, but it's Jim Backus, and he's a horrible drunk. In fact, him waking up and not like, this is a zany 60s thing. The drunk wakes up, thinks he's blind, then runs into the bar and causes it all to fall over. At that point, I would probably say I'm not getting on his plane.
No, they're blinded. They're blinded by the money. Just like Bacchus is blind, thinks he's blind. They're blinded by the money.
Fair enough. And then there was the accident that caused Jonathan Winters to run into Milton Berle's car. He's going to go and call for a car to come and get them, but he's got to ride a little girl's bicycle, which just him on a little girl's bicycle is hilarious.
Yeah,
because it's like that thing is about to fall apart.
But that introduces Phil Silvers, who's the driver of the car, and he tricks him into moving the little girl's bicycle so he can take off without him.
Right.
And that puts Jonathan Winters on his Destruction Tour 2000, where he breaks everything he sees.
Right.
At the end of the movie.
Because he ends up catching up with Phil Silvers because he's got to stop and get gas. Also, Jonathan Winters has torn off his car door, trying to get back into the car. Also, stunt work later on in the movie when Jonathan Winters has to constantly try to get into a taxi that's driving away. That was pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
That was fun. But anyway, so like that's when he gets tied up at at Irwin and Ray's garage. Because Phil Silvers successfully convinces Ray and Irwin that he is a that he's a psychopath, and that he's gonna kill somebody. So they tie him up, which he ends up breaking out of by breaking the chair, I think. Because he's tied to the chair. I think he breaks.
Well, the chair's stuck to his asshole while he breaks the whole fucking thing down.
But
Yeah,
he has to break the chair to get his arms free, I think.
Sure, yeah, he breaks it and the seat is like stuck to his back.
Right.
And that's, as Jason talked about, or we talked about earlier, that he destroys the whole place getting out of there. I don't know, maybe we should just take this character quickly to the point where he meets up with the other family before the end, just so we don't have to talk like individual scenes.
The last group, and this can lead into that conversation, because the last group is the Milton Berle group, because they eventually flag down Terry Thomas, who's Lieutenant General J. Algernon Hawthorne.
He's fucking hilarious in this movie.
He's awesome. I've always loved this guy. Yeah, he's great.
He is old style British, stuffy, talks with like an air of, like my farts don't stink type of person.
Dude, he travels around with cactuses in his car. That's all you have to say.
Yes.
About him.
So they all pile into his car, and they tell him the story. Basically, it's like, now you're in on this too.
10%.
10%. Ethel Merman demands only 10% go to him. He has one whole line later. Once he and Milton Berle split off from Ethel Merman and
that's
Dorothy
the best
Provine.
Pure dialogue in this whole movie.
The whole thing about bustiers.
Oh my God.
The bosom theory, as I call
this
it.
Preposterous preoccupation with bosoms.
If women stopped wearing brasiers, the whole national economy would collapse overnight.
Yes.
It's so good because they're having that's like one of the more, I guess, political scenes in this. I don't know if it's political, but like
a lot of their conversation is a little bit political. Yeah,
it bubbles up some shit,
like geopolitical least, and also socio-political. Yeah,
it's a little nationalistic too, where it's like because one is talking about how
more
great
patriotic pride.
Sure,
a little
and
bit.
it's it's like how great the British were at stuff.
Yeah,
and like Milton Berle's like, you're not so great. You shove that up your ass. It's and then he says something back, which then gets them, and they end up having a fist fight. That is the most pathetic fight.
And they punch each other in each other's hand. Their fists hit. It's so good. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
I really like those two. They're funny.
Yeah,
they're great. It was a stupid, overdone joke at this point, but when Milton Berle gets angry and like dives at him and just flies off the cliff, it is not the most ridiculous fall you'll see in this movie.
No.
As we'll discuss later.
When people are flying off of the giant ladder, I was giggling the whole way through.
Or we'll discuss it now. Yeah,
they turned into action figures, and it was great.
Oh my.
It's so fucking ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
We'll come back around to that. Anyway, continue, Chuck.
Oh, yeah. So, well, they had split from the ladies because Mom was just being a bitch.
Oh, and she's awful.
She wanted to call Sylvester, and they're like, "No, we need to keep going." And there's a split.
Well,
there.
and Milton Berle doesn't like Sylvester.
No, he doesn't.
Thinks he's crazy. He thinks he's a flake, and he is a flake.
But even Algernon kind of eggs that on. He's like, well, I have a brother-in-law, and if he were to know this thing, we'd never see him again. So Algernon is egging him on, which is great. But they end up splitting up. So we have Milton Berle and the British guy traveling towards... What park is it? I don't even know what park they're going to. They're going to a park in California somewhere. Nevada. I don't remember.
I'll look it up here. Hang on. Go ahead.
We have those two. And then after Jonathan Winters...
Santa Rosita State Park.
Gotcha. Yeah. After Jonathan Winters destroys the gas station, he gets a truck. He picks up the mother and the wife.
Well, he sees the tow truck, and he's just like, huh. He fucking takes it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. He's out of control at this point. But he picks them up. They're barreling towards the end. I forget the dude's name, but his wife, the one...
You're talking about Sid Caesar's character, or
yes, Melville Crump and his wife had taken the plane. They're stuck in the basement of the tool store.
It should be mentioned that Jonathan Winters is into the idea of, go ahead and call your son and have him get there first. Like he is for that idea.
Yeah, he's okay with it. He's so far behind. They're all so far behind now. I think that they kind of have to do that.
Well, they are perceiving that they are far behind, but really they're not that far behind Milton Berle and Terry Thomas.
Right, because they're circling around like the whole fucking movie.
Right.
And Ding Bell and Benji are flying the plane with a knocked out what's his name? Backus?
Jim Backus, yeah.
Yeah, and they're circling basically around an airfield near Santa Rosita Park. That is so Airplane, that scene.
Oh, yeah, very much
with the drunk captain, or the scared captain coming in, and
he falls
the
out the
tower
window.
And, yeah.
I mean, that's, like the guy falling out the window is so unnecessary, but I'll be damned if I didn't.
Well, his whole thing is like
to
try to like keep them calm, and he's raising the anxiety the whole time. Yeah.
Yes. It's like leaving the mic on an airplane when the captain was like, he's never going to land this fucking thing.
Most definitely.
Well, and the whole concept of what makes it that much worse is that Buddy Hackett is the one. He is the most like jittery person of the entire cast. And he's the one who's going to be flying the plane, and he also has to be the one accepting the directions.
Right.
So,
which
like,
it's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna be the stewardess?
Which is funny because it's like Mickey Rooney is one of the more calm and like trying to think things out guy. Like, he figures out how to, here's the radio, and he learns how to use the radio, but then he has to give it over to Buddy Hackett, who's busy like flipping the fuck out.
I think someone in the tower actually says we're all pulling for you too, which is which is a direct pull in Airplane.
Yeah.
Yep. Most definitely.
So their little thing that goes on. That's another moment in this movie where something happens for way too long. Really, I feel like they had nothing to do with them. If they cut everyone's like middle scene in this movie to like a couple minutes, this movie would have greatly benefited from it.
I agree. They felt like they had to stretch it through the intermission, and it just dragged for me. Yeah.
Although at one point Benji and Ding Bell are in the plane doing corkscrews, which is, I mean, that's just.
But you could have added
you buzz the tower once or twice, great, but it just keeps happening. It's just
they could have done corkscrews to a buzz to something else.
Can we just end this bit? Yeah, I mean, everything that's funny about it has been funny multiple times now. It's not funny anymore. It's diminishing returns. Yeah,
right.
They do eventually land, and then they just get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
They just run. It's pretty funny. Yeah. Because that's when the Three Stooges show up.
They're the firemen.
The firemen.
And I talk about a major missed opportunity here. If you were going to elongate this movie, just a 5-minute scene with the Three Stooges trying to put out a plane fire or something would have been a wonderful reprieve. Yeah. Like right at this moment.
Or trying to put out a fire that's non-existent.
Right.
Or whatever. Yeah, whatever it is.
It's hard to know like what was, I don't know, like I think the 202-minute cut has been restored.
It's on my Criterion disc.
I don't know if there is more there or not. I mean, they're old men. They might not have really wanted to do a bit.
Well, I mean, they went until 1970, but
yeah.
It would have been a fun little bit in this movie with them dealing with the plane and beating each other up or whatever.
This is probably a good time to mention, though. We watched the 161-minute cut. If there is more with the Stooges in one of the longer cuts, we did not watch it. So
yeah, let us know if you know.
There's a 192-minute cut, and there's a 202-minute cut, which was the original cut. The premiere, but that's not the cut that went to the premiere. Premiere was cut down by 10 minutes.
Right.
And then the studio said, still fucking too long. And they cut it down to 161.
And they're not, here's another little, I guess it's a jab at this movie. Not really a jab, but they weren't even appropriately placed as cameos. They should have been on the Jonathan Winters timeline as a cameo because he was the most Stooge-like character.
Well, yeah. I mean, if there was more with them, like, you know, like they're rushing up to the plane and they keep like knocking each other over with the hose, or they keep trying to like spray
100%.
something.
I can imagine
they could have worked in that instance.
Right.
You know, maybe even to the point where they turn on the hose thinking there is a fire and it destroys the plane or something, you know, like it tears off the wings or whatever.
Oh no, they would have hosed one of the other ones like 30 feet into the air or something dumb like that.
Sure. Could have, or the all three of them holding onto the hose is pointed down and they all fly.
They're going, yeah, for sure.
Yep. So there was an opportunity there, but yeah, it would have made sense for them to, if they were still the firemen and they show up at the wrecked
yes,
station.
That's what I mean.
And they're like, you know, it's like, well, we couldn't have done a better job ourselves or something like that, you know. Wow, right? Hire me, Hollywood. I know, you know, you guys need help.
Jeff knows how to write a movie. So we kind of got everyone at the intermission point, which, as you said earlier, was their lowest point. And the intermission is basically just before they all arrive at Santa Rosita Park. One important thing to note is that Spencer, the captain, Culpepper, he finds out that he's not getting any increased.
He sends the commissioner to the commissioner to the mayor's office to say, look at what I'm about to pull in and look what I'm about to do. I'm about to finally solve everything about where the missing money is. I would like, I want to take a 3-week vacation. I want to go to Hawaii and I want a pension so that I can retire soon.
He wants a tripled pension. He wants his pension to be doubled or tripled.
Yeah.
Which he finds out right around this point that he's not going to get it.
Right. And the commissioner did say, it's like, you know, they're probably not going to budge on this, you know, and he's like, I don't care. You tell them all the stuff I did. And the commissioner's like, I do believe in you. I'm going to do it. And then, he finds out that it's not going to do it. Now, at some point along the way here, Ethel Merman does eventually, like, she does try to call her son a few times, Sylvester. So let's talk about Sylvester's dancing bikini-clad paramour. Because this is, I doubled over in
love
laughter.
it so much. Her like seriousness.
Oh my God. There is
her like unblinking stare.
It's so like rigid. And like her even the dance moves are so like deliberate. And it's just, and like Sylvester's like hooting and hollering and going on, and he's just a surfer, like beach bum basically. And she is what you would think of like as somebody who thinks of themselves as some sort of an artist, you know, where it's like,
I don't know.
They take it very seriously.
I'm not going to put anything on her other than the fact that she is just like into dancing.
Oh, she is taking it
dancing
extremely
in a bikini,
seriously.
and I love it.
Yeah,
it's like,
is
I don't know. I don't care what else she is. That's what I know, and that's what we get, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is insane.
I love it.
Like, it's something that almost seems like it was before its time.
Kind of.
Like,
it does.
Because it's so abstract.
It does. The comedy of that feels much different than the comedy of the rest of the movie.
It's so abstract.
It does feel abstract. It feels a little bit progressive in a way. Yeah, it does. It's out of place, but perfectly. Like, I needed her so much in that moment because I laughed and laughed and I was like, this is the best. And I was also kind of turned on and I was like, Perfect.
Chuck, you're on mute.
Still on mute, Chuck.
What's interesting to me here is that, like, the moment where you expect some fun, like, everything that's happening in this movie is outlandish and wild, right?
Mm-hmm.
This scene where you expect it to be outlandish and wild is completely reserved and serious, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
but
like
it is. Yeah, but it's funny. Yeah,
no, exactly. It's like a polar opposite scene. Yeah,
right. It's somebody coming in with a straight face and saying or doing the most ridiculous thing ever. You know, it's that kind of comedy.
Yeah, I would love to know. I would love to know, like, the background of this scene and that character in particular.
Because was like did she like say this is what I'm doing? Or I mean, she was a dancer.
It's Barry Chase.
Barry Chase.
Barry Chase is the actor. She was in a few things of note that are escaping me at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I know. It feels like she just came in.
She was
said,
in.
This is what I'm doing.
She was in Cape Fear. She was the.
Was she the?
She was the Ileana.
Yes, the Ileana Douglas character in the remake. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she was in a few other things too, but yeah.
There's the Flight of the Phoenix. That's a good one.
She was like a dancing, belly dancing lady or something in that. Which cool.
Yeah, cool. Whatever. Yeah,
cool.
I mean,
finally, Ethel Merman gets a call through to those two who had been out like all day, right? Like,
well, they
not
weren't
answering
out.
the phone.
They just weren't
They say
answering the
they
phone.
were all. He
Right.
says they were out.
Yeah. He was out working.
Yes,
doesn't work.
But as soon as he finds out that Melville, or not Melville.
Yeah, no. She says
Russell Finch.
That Russell. She says that Russell manhandled her on the side of the. Neither one of them can communicate worth a shit. Now that's part of the whole thing with Ethel Merman's character is that she doesn't speak; she yells. Right. So like.
And Sylvester's a total mama's boy,
and he's an idiot too. Yeah, because she cannot communicate that what she wants him to do. All she can do is yell and say, "I was aggrieved."
Honestly, this is the only time I feel frustrated for her because she's trying to tell him.
But she keeps going back to accident. Manhandled. She keeps going back to her grievance.
No, she's just trying to get his attention.
Right.
Will you listen is all she's saying. Right. Will you listen? Will you listen? She's not repeating herself. And he's just like, he's seeing red. So he's like, I'm coming, mama. I'm coming. She's like, no, will you just listen to me? He's like, nope, I'm coming. And he gets on the road.
He hangs up and he takes off. And then she goes back to Jonathan Winters and her daughter, Emmeline, and was like, so I did get in touch with him. And it's like, this is the only time in which she's not like,
she's defeated.
Verbose. Yeah. She's like, so I did get in touch with him and he's on his way here. It's like, oh my God. Although when they do, there's some good stunt driving in this movie too. Because the whole thing with, when he catches up to Milton Berle, there's some good stunt driving there.
Yeah. The British know how to drive a car. Because Algernon is kicking ass here.
Yeah.
It is pretty funny, but finally they wreck, right?
Yeah.
When they go into the tunnel and all that comes out of the tunnel is the tire.
Yeah.
Funny. And then the car behind it. Because the car's been on a fucked up axis for a while now.
Right.
And he can't really control it. It's been steering into the other lane. And then the tire that's been wobbly comes loose.
Good stuff.
It's that interestingly enough, that tire that flew over the wall at the Indy 500, same thing happened about a few days later. Somebody was driving along and it just comes rolling out of a tunnel.
I've seen some random tires fly down highways. I'll tell you what.
I'll tell you what.
I've been in that car. Yep.
Yes.
I've seen random bags fly up and latch onto people's faces while
That's
driving.
true.
It's I tell you what.
It's true. You have. The only other character, and we can get through this quickly because this Phil Silvers, Otto Meyer. He's been kind of sidetracked. He sinks his car in a river. He gets out of the river, and then he gets a ride with Don Knotts.
Yes.
To the park, which is funny because there's a helicopter just hiding behind the bushes that comes up when he gets the ride. Like, yeah, right. Like they didn't notice this sneaking helicopter.
Because they don't notice it until they pull over at one point. And that's when Don Knotts becomes Don Knotts, and he's like freaking out about, well, that's a police helicopter.
Yeah, so Don Knotts.
Yes,
so many characters that are so themselves in this movie.
Right, yeah.
But Melville and his wife get out of the basement by blowing up the wall. They end up in a
Chinese laundry
restaurant. Oh, yeah, Chinese laundry.
Like the Chekhov's fireworks and dynamite takes so long to pay off. In that,
I did write Chekhov's dynamite in my notes.
It would have been. I mean, this would have been. This is a little iffy to say, but it would have been one thing if on the other side of the wall was Chinese fireworks. So when they blew up the wall, it also sets off the fireworks.
Yeah.
But no, it's a Chinese laundry. So
I thought there was going to be a terrible joke about being on the other side of the world or something stupid like that when they blew through the wall.
This is a really dumb
I really totally wouldn't have written that joke.
This is really dumb where to decide, but I kind of want to start using this. I was talking to somebody who watched Fast X, and we were talking about how we were talking about how the scene with the psychedelic muffin just kind of disappears from the plot. It just like doesn't go anywhere. And he called it a Schrodinger's gun. And I think that's so good.
Is the gun still here or not?
That is awesome, sir.
Was it an accident?
No, he knew what he was talking about. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I was like, I'm going to use that.
I like it. Not often do you find people who watch movies like Fast X that are pretty smart.
It was
a joke. It was a joke.
Yeah,
66% of the people on this episode are, fairly smart.
Yeah, I know you guys watched that movie. That's why I made the joke.
Oh, okay.
And you guys weren't smart enough to catch on.
Anyway, let's get back to family.
Yeah, back to family. The whole family is at Santa Rosita Park now.
Pretty much, yeah.
In various ways.
Because as soon as Sid Caesar and Edie Adams get out of the basement, they find Peter Falk. And they're like, okay, let's go. The guy, the cab driver that Ding Bell and Benji take was actually a famous radio guy. Rochester was his...
you can kind of tell he has a great voice.
Yeah.
So
you got two yellow cabs, each carrying two of the people. You have eventually Winters, Emmeline, and Ethel Merman pick up Algernon and Russell, and they end up at the park.
And you have Spencer Tracy.
Oh, and also, and Sylvester is also in that.
Yeah. Sylvester's there. And you also have Spencer Tracy, who's told his force, nobody come anywhere near this. I'm going to handle it, which is extremely obvious what he's doing because he's not getting his pension. And then you have... and then Phil Silvers is also, he's shown up now too.
And
the one character who almost feels like she deserves the money is Finch's wife.
Yeah.
No, not Finch's wife.
Yeah,
Finch's wife.
Yeah, Emmeline. Yeah, Dorothy.
Like you're kind of hoping she ends up with the money. And
there's something really, really kind of sad about what she's, because it's like she obviously hates her life. It's like She wants to have enough money to go to a convent. She doesn't want to just get away for a little while. She doesn't want to make her and her husband's life better. She doesn't want to do anything for her mother. She wants to leave all of them. And it's kind of sad. And like, even like, you can tell that Culpepper is kind of reacting to that. And because then, like, as she's talking about that, and she's like, hey, if you help me find this, we'll split it and I'll have enough to do whatever I want. But then it was just then that, like, it dawns on, and it's Jonathan Winters, I think, who it dawns on.
Yeah, he's standing in front of it with his crazy face. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's right behind.
It's right there. I did like all of the stuff that was happening at the park. That was one instance where I thought the stretching out did kind of work for the movie. Because one, you kind of have the funny thing where people are popping up behind bushes and people are, doing whatever. But if you really kind of think about it, if you don't exactly know what you're looking for, you may not necessarily see that the trees are in the shape of a W.
Right, you wouldn't expect it to be trees.
You wouldn't expect it to be that. I mean, I'm going to do it.
I'd be okay with the stretching out of this scene if there weren't like another half hour after this scene.
Well, fair. But that's, in a way, this is the twist has to take place at this point. But I'm going to do it. There's a Simpsons episode that does this joke as well. Right. When Sam Neill moves into the old folks' home and starts stealing everybody's stuff, it's the cat burglar episode. And, because it's got the line sneakers for sneaking. But anyway, he tells everybody that everything is buried under a big T, and they all go to it like, it's a mad, 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 mad world. Anyway, and it's a palm tree that's literally in the shape of a T. It doesn't make any sense.
That's good. So that makes sense. So yeah. So yeah, they all start digging. I don't know. At this point, I think they've kind of agreed how they're going to split the money. There's still a little conversation about it, but they agree eventually. And Spencer Tracy's just standing there watching them, like this look on his face, which is wonderful. The whole time, like, oh, you guys have fun. I'm going to ruin this in a minute kind of look on his face.
Well, yeah, because he's even giving direction and people are taking it and they have to stop and think for a second. Wait a minute. Who the hell are you?
Oh, when Benji looks at him and just smiles, it's fucking awesome. Yeah, that was good. So they get the money out, and eventually they start talking about the cops and why the cops would be interested in this money and blah, 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 blah. And then Spencer Tracy's like, hey, I'm the cops. Hand over the money. You guys turn yourselves in, and you'll probably get lesser sentences. And they're all like, okay. For some
because they've all hyped themselves up into thinking that they are going to be in trouble. Now, He does tell them they are in trouble for a lot of the damages and the stuff that they've done. I mean, shit, Jonathan Winters has done so much. I mean, like, and you've got Sid Caesar and his wife blowing up, I mean, like, they've done bad things.
Right, but the biggest thing he really says to them is, you're not really criminals.
Right, exactly.
That's what sells them on it. Forget what they've done, the fact that he says you're not really criminals, you've just had these circumstances, basically.
Right.
Which is, the system fucking with you again, as it's often does. Right. But they all agree, and they get in their cabs, and they drive off. And much like the beginning of the movie, they're like, wait a minute. Something's off with this other car. We ought to follow it. And Spencer Tracy's basically trying to steal the money. He's going to park his car in a garage, get on a boat or something, take his family or his wife to Hawaii. But they catch him before he can even do that. And there's a mad, 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 mad chase through this city. unfortunately and sadly for Captain Culpepper, he was going to get his pension. The commander or whomever,
the commissioner or whoever,
whoever it was, went to bat for him and said, "Hey, I've got dirt on this entire city. You're going to give this money to him, or it's going to the newspapers."
Right.
Unfortunately, he couldn't get that message to him because Culpepper wouldn't listen. And they have the most ridiculous ending to a movie I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous.
I remember loving this as a kid, but I did not remember how absolutely ridiculous it is.
You know what? What it started making me. I mean, there's stuff like this that I've seen in episodes of The Monkees, where like they fly in through a window and land on a bed and then they go to sleep or something. You know, it's like weird stuff like that. It's like that kind of physical comedy where it's like nobody is landing anywhere where they should get hurt, but it is.
Yeah, but the landing doesn't matter here.
No.
They're getting thrown through fucking walls and windows, and they're falling from 3,000 feet. So where they land does not matter. But I get what you're saying.
Right.
I mean,
but they all turn into dolls, which is funny.
3 of them bounce on electrical wires, and my eldest kid that's watching it is going dead, 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 dead. Dead. The whole time. They're all dead. Yeah. And I get it in the context of this movie, but it's more zany than any of the rest of the movie has been, besides maybe destroying the gas station, which had paper thin walls. Right?
Well, I mean, it's just the crescendo to the
yes, but
it's way old style comedy,
wilder than anything that's happened. It's hilarious.
Sure.
I love it.
Sure.
I like it. It was a good payoff, I thought. It's ridiculous, but
and it puts everybody in the same peril. That's the one thing that it's like,
which is none
on this. Well, they're all on the same ladder that's starting to buckle, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, it's like they're all in the same seeming peril over money that has now been dropped.
Yes.
At this point, all they're fighting for at this point is their lives. And some of them get tossed through a wall. Some of them get tossed into an outdoor picnic of some sort that's for some reason going on. I don't care why. It's just going on, and it's great. Somebody lands in a cake. It's great. Some people land in a palm tree. Some people get electrocuted into burnt toast. It's fine.
Yeah.
I like it.
I mean, that's probably my third favorite part of the movie. So yeah, it's a pretty
they all end up in jail. We should finish this.
Yeah,
they all do end up in jail, and they're all in the jail's infirmary.
And in body casts. They're all in body casts.
They're all in body casts, and they're all blaming each other as to why they're in this scenario that they're in. And Spencer Tracy is saying, it's like, I got. I lost my wife. My daughter is changing her name so that she's not associated with me anymore. I've lost my pension. I'll probably die in here. All of this. Really
I just hope I have something to laugh at in the next 20 years.
To which then Buddy Hackett is eating a banana somehow, and he just tosses the banana to the peel, and in come the women who are also been arrested. And Ethel Merman's going to give everybody what for, and she just flat out slips on the banana peel. It's like the most simple old school joke is how this movie ends, with all of these other elaborate jokes that they've set up throughout the movie. She falls on her ass and everybody laughs, eventually even Spencer Tracy.
Yeah. I want to take issue with one thing you just said.
Okay.
And maybe it's my largest problem with this movie. You say elaborate jokes. I think the problem is that none of them are elaborate, and that's why the length is a problem for all of them.
When I say elaborate, I guess really what I mean, it's like in some ways they are elaborately set up. Like the whole idea of Jonathan Winters tearing down the service station is an elaborate setup as to why he's there to tear down to ultimately.
I wouldn't call that elaborate, though. It's like it's a guy left him in a parking lot. It's not that elaborate. I'm not trying to tear down your point here.
I mean, but the lead up to it is kind of it's
not elaborate at all. It's circumstantial almost.
Maybe convoluted is a better word, because why would he have been just left at a station when they could have they never called the police, or they didn't like not soon enough. So why did they leave him around? So there's convoluted setup, but the movie ends on a far more simplistic joke where a guy just throws a banana peel and somebody slips on it.
Yes.
Everything else has convolution. This movie
is fun. It's a lot of fun at times, and it drags at times. That's the only the only thing I would take away from it, and it doesn't make me dislike it. I think I could just like it a whole lot more. Sure. If it's sped through for me a little better.
Sure.
That's exactly how I feel. I liked it. It's fun. I laughed a lot. I was also exhausted by the end, and I couldn't wait for it to be over. So take that for what it is. I was like, oh my god, finally! It felt really tedious by the end for me. But
it does.
But there are moments that are just hilarious.
I mean, here's kind of this is kind of how I would summarize it. I just was seeing this. So it says here on Wikipedia, the film holds 71% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 38 reviews. It's an average of 6.9 out of 10. And the consensus states it's long, frantic, and stuffed to the gills with comic actors and set pieces, and that's exactly its charm. I think that's where I would land. I mean, there is a charm in these kind of older movies that are overstuffed like this. I mean,
I think that charm is waning, though. I think that might have been the charm when it came out, for sure. But I think that charm is waning with every year that passes.
You're probably right on that. I mean, it's the same thing where it's like, we're getting to the point where, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was some weeks ago we talked about Bonnie and Clyde, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is a good example as to why Hollywood changed by the end of the decade. That doesn't necessarily mean that there weren't movies that weren't overstuffed afterwards.
Sure.
In fact, it's an overstuffed, overblown movie that ends the new Hollywood.
Yep.
Does overstuffed doesn't necessarily mean over long and tedious at times.
No, but it can be both long and overstuffed to the point of tedium too. I mean, it's when there's too much going on.
Reevaluations of Heaven's Gate have since vindicated Savino in many ways.
Right, sure, but I mean,
but he did go way over budget.
Right. We're getting to a stage now where this movie has already waned. We're getting to the point now where there are people who consider themselves massive fans of movies who have zero interest in sitting for 3 hours plus to watch The Godfather.
Yeah.
It's like we're getting to the point where the 70s movies that have length on them are getting, they're waning at this point. Which is funny because almost every major blockbuster now is 2.5 to 3 hours long.
They're really long. We're in a new era of the long movie.
Right. And that doesn't always
and I don't think it's necessarily a good thing.
No, I agree with you because I just sat for 2.5. We're recording this the day after I saw the Across the Spider-Verse. That's a 2.5 hour movie.
Oh my God, is it really?
Yeah, it's the longest animated film ever made for all ages.
That doesn't need to be 2.5 hours long.
Well, and I hate to tell you this, it's part one of a 2-part movie.
Oh my goodness. Well, the new Little Mermaid movie is 51 minutes longer than the animated
original,
movie it's a remake of. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know why. I mean, I'm sure that there is some logistical sense as to why they will say it needs to be that long, but it's a problem, right? Like one of the things I said in my review of Cocaine Bear was the fact that it knew when to get out. Yep. And that was at the 90-minute mark.
Yep.
It got out.
Don't outwear your welcome.
Right. I mean, Cocaine Bear. Yeah, I mean, you're right. But you're not wrong. But it's fucking Cocaine Bear.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean,
it's fucking Spider-Verse, dude. I mean,
right. I mean, but the first, I mean, and the first Spider-Verse is
weight here.
I don't think so. No, it is not. It is not. The Spider-Man movie is not the same level of weight as Cocaine Bear. I'm telling you, it's just not. It's not.
I mean, in a way, it should be. I mean, there isn't that much story. I'm sorry.
2.5 hours
to warrant a 2.5 hour movie.
But an hour and a half movie versus a 2 hour movie in saying content where there's weight to characters, there's not going to be a whole lot of weight to anyone in a Cocaine Bear movie. Like Spider-Man has a shit ton of weight as a character.
I mean, yes. All right. I'll give you that. But at the same time, it's still kind of just like popcorn movie making.
The first Spider-Verse movie is not. I haven't seen the new one.
Yeah, I mean the first one is an Academy Award winner, so
I wouldn't call it a popcorn film even in the least.
I mean, I watched that yesterday also before I went and saw the new one, and on emotional beats, it has a lot going for it. It has more than the new one has going.
It's very good. I like the first one quite a lot. And you're right. It's not fair to compare it to Cocaine Bear, but it's. I mean, it's still. Come on.
I think you're bringing your own personal feelings into this.
Maybe I am, but
because comic books are not. I don't know. We shouldn't have this conversation now.
Well, but I mean, there is a conversation to be had here because this movie is emblematic of things that are happening now. Like, for example, I think the Ant-Man movie was 2.5 hours long or something or it was over 2 hours. It was like 2:15 maybe. It didn't need to be that long.
Well, everything thinks it's an epic, man. It's there's a self-importance to the writing, and I think that is the problem.
But it's also
maybe it's not Cocaine Bear, but it's like it's still fucking Spider-Man. Like, let's bring it down a little bit in the self-importance.
I don't think that's fair.
I think you can write just as good a movie and get to the point a lot easier than belaboring a lot of what they belabor in a lot of these movies.
If we're talking 2.5 hours versus 2, I'll agree with you. And the Cocaine Bear thing is what kind of I take umbrage with. But
fair. I've already
I know you have.
Bad comparison.
But emotional depth in a movie like Ant-Man is just not there. In the first Spider-Verse movie, it is. So it deserves
and that movie
its
is
time.
Like an hour.
Well, the first Spider-Verse movie was under 2 hours long.
Right.
I know that. I mean, my point is, I've already discredited.
So they've already proven that they can do it. So fucking do it again.
The extra half hour is, I think, a problem. I agree with you, but I wouldn't just dumb it down. Is what I'm saying.
Fair enough.
If the emotional depth is there, it doesn't matter if it's Spider-Man or if it's fucking Anne Frank.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, though, that I do think both of you will very much like it's still a very good movie. It can be better. I mean, it's a movie that I only had like 2 very small nitpicks about. Neither of those nitpicks were necessarily about its length. But, I mean, I certainly think that length is going to prevent Jason, you from going to see it at the theater, and Chuck,
definitely not gonna.
And Chuck, you might, decide to wait as well, or you might.
Oh no, I won't because my kids want to see it. So
there you go.
I'll see it.
I don't think either one of you are going to dislike the movie. It does have enough going for it to have length, but it is a 2.5 hour movie that. Most in the past would have been 45 minutes shorter, if not a whole hour shorter.
Yeah.
Coming back to its mad world, because that led to this discussion. This movie doesn't deserve its 2 hours and 40 minutes. I wish it was 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. I do not judge movies on length until I've seen them. It may impact whether I'll go to the theater because I know I'm going to have to take 4 fucking bathroom breaks. Like, I don't want to miss anything, you know? But, like, I'm not going to say this movie should not be 2.5 hours, sight unseen. I will see it and say, this movie did not need to be 2.5 hours. It's just, unless it's Austin Powers and they put out, like, if there's precedence there, and I'm like, no Austin Powers movie needs to be 2.5 fucking hours, whatever. But yeah, I don't think it's fair necessarily to say a movie deserves its runtime until you've seen it.
It is.
And this one didn't. That's all my last point.
I will also say about this movie is that it was an incredible success in 1963. It was one of the, top grossing films of all time when you adjust for inflation. So this is, people went, now granted, you get an auditorium, or you get a intermission to go out to the auditorium, pick up some more candy or take a leak or whatever.
Yeah, I wish they still did those.
I would like to see that return too, because as I get older,
if we're moving more towards this long form, yeah. I will say, look, if your movie makes me forget how long it is, then it deserves its runtime. All right, I've seen a couple of long movies recently. John Wick 4 is like 2.5 hours long. Didn't fucking feel like it. Babylon was like 3 hours long. Didn't feel like it. Avatar: The Way of Water. It's like 3 hours long. Felt fucking like 5.
Right. That you're making my point a much more succinct, excuse me, way. That's what I'm trying to say. If I can sit through the movie and be like, no matter how long it is, if I'm like, I wish there was more, it's like, you did your job, movie.
Yep.
And sometimes you can still say the same thing if you said that was just the right amount. That was just where, no matter the length, it's just right.
Cocaine.
That's the Cocaine Bear. Yeah.
Man, I miss the days of the 3-act 90-minute movie. Like they are.
Was our
there's
generation.
An art to
right?
it. There's an art to it. And it's not always possible to get it right, but when you do, it's like magic.
We were brought up like that.
Yeah, you need to go over to Tubi and watch a bunch of indie horror then if you want that.
Yeah.
80, 90-minute 3-act.
Absolutely.
Stuff. You're not going to be happy.
Some of those,
you're not going to be happy. But you're going to
a lot of those 90-minute 80s horror films feel like an eternity. Yeah.
I'm not talking about 80s horror movies. I'm talking about movies made today by indie people.
Yeah, it's true.
You're not going to be happy, but you're going to get your 90 minutes or less.
Right.
Well, that's because
those are the ones that don't have enough. They got to stuff it to 90, and it's like, oh boy.
I was going to say there's 20 minutes of way too dark to see horror where you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah. That's a whole other problem.
I thought you were going to say what I'm about to say.
We got to get this to movie length. Yeah, we got to get this to movie length. We're struggling to get to like 75 minutes.
It's a wonder we even like to talk about movies as begrudging as we all are right now.
I'm not begrudging of anything.
Two of us are being very begrudging.
Yes, I will agree with that. One of us has been to 2 really good movies this week, and I was glad. I was even glad the Kamen Rider was 2 hours long, so I was fine with that.
Nice.
But that was also action from start to finish. There was like no fat on that 2 hours. It's like,
speaking of no fat, let's finish this up.
Let's finish this one up. I'm going to just...
No reason for this episode to be
right. Exactly. I will say...
Film Seizure. Sorry.
I will say that this is still... I still think this is a very funny movie. It has some very funny moments.
It does.
Now, it can be too long, and, maybe you have to watch it in a couple of sittings. But you're going to get comedy out of this. And there is a lot of comedy in this that is of its time, but there is also a lot of timeless comedy, like tearing down the the shack of a.
That still plays.
So that still plays.
Totally.
The abstract comedy of the dancing will play. I mean, like even the whole opening with everybody gathered around Jimmy Durante has humor or lightheartedness to it that will still play.
Well, what's funny about that, real quick, is I was watching with my kid, and I was like, "Oh, he kicked the can," and they were like, "No, he kicked the bucket, Dad." So it's still definitely in the.
You got eye rolled by your kid.
But it's in the zeitgeist, right? It's like that comedy will forever play, I guess.
Right. This would play really well as like a short miniseries, like a 4 or 5 episode miniseries where you could like focus
have a character episode
on different characters, and like have them, sometimes intermix. Like you could write a really funny,
if you do it right,
way of doing that. Yeah.
If you do it right, you would have 6 or 7 episodes, right? And where each one follows one of the main cars. And each end of one episode hands off to the next, and then they all come together at the end.
And there could be some passing through,
right?
But you would have a focus, and a pass and a baton pass with each.
And then the final episode. I mean, you could even do it as one episode. They're all together. They all then split off, and then they pass and they hand off, and then they all
don't give away our good ideas. Start writing.
I feel like
AI has already done
Mike
this.
White could write a killer version of this as like a short miniseries.
Yeah, if you really kept it funny. If you kept it funny.
Yeah. Like keep it zany. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Let's go to more zany action next week. Next Wednesday. Next Wednesday at filmseizure.com, we're gonna celebrate Midsummer. There's some things, I mean,
we're gonna find out what really happens when people fall off cliffs.
Exactly. I mean, and it's pretty funny when that old guy just bounces right off that off that fucking rock. Somebody needs to add slide whistle to that.
Yeah.
And then,
what were you saying, Jason?
Sorry. We keep you on your toes here at Film Seizure.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
With a little bit of whiplash.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So we got Midsummer, Ari Aster's breakthrough, or not breakthrough, because really Hereditary was. This was the exception to the rule that the sophomore outing would be worse than the freshman outing. So come by, laugh with us. It's gonna be zany. It's gonna be fun times. Dealing with really light topics.
Yes.
So that is on Wednesday, June 28th at filmseizure.com. Also on Monday, the 26th, as well on filmseizure.com. We have Monster Mondays, and I conclude the Daijman trilogy with Daijman Strikes Again. That's good. That
sounds very Star Warsy.
Digimon?
No, it's a Japanese giant monster.
Is it Digimon though?
Daimajin.
Oh, okay. Daimajin.
Okay. It's based on like folklore stuff, gods and demons and stuff. Good trilogy.
Find out.
Good trilogy. Yeah, tune in, find out about it. Chuck, I would definitely recommend you like Japanese stuff like that. Jason, I think you'd even like those quite a bit. So those are both found at filmseizure.com. Go there to also find out where you can follow us. This upcoming Friday at my website, bmovieanima.com, I have a review of Vice Academy 3.
Oh.
Yay.
We are getting into Skinamax water. Well, they were always we got into that in the first movie, but it's starting to get cheaper and a little weirder. So come read about that at bmovieanima.com. Yeah, so we're going to pack our bags, head out to Sweden or Finland or wherever the fuck these weirdos are, and have a grand old time pushing people off cliffs and shit. Until then, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.